best decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a debate that people often wager. This deck is the best deck of all time. It dominated this format. This deck, no, is the strongest deck of all time. Not only did it dominate, it changed how we played Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, in this video, I have a complete tier list of every single one of the greatest decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! And we're gonna go ahead and rate them. I'm TheCaliEffect, and if you guys want to see more videos like this, to go and destroy that subscribe button. But more importantly, go at that notification bell because, well, we just too strong. Also want to give a special thanks to every single one of my Patreons. Without you guys, videos like this would not be possible. And a mad shout out to our newest Patreon, Teresa Quiggins. Welcome to the clan. Make sure you add yourself to that Discord as well as message me so I can get you some top dogs so you can take advantage of all your rewards. Without further ado, I present to you a tier list on the best decks of all time. Let's settle that debate right here and right now. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as you guys know, every new series is dictated by you guys. So if you guys want to see more tier list, more of the best, then go ahead and like this video up. Let's try to get to 500 likes, and then let me know down below in the comment section what you would love to see a tier list video on next. I really do appreciate you guys for liking up the last tier list, and if you guys want to see that, then boop, go ahead and check it out right there. Starting off with our tier list, we have GOAT status decks. These decks are the best of all time, and hypothetically, if the cards that restrict them from being competitively viable inside of this format were to come off the forbidden list, then they might be tier 1, if not tier 0 status inside of this format. Also, these decks were respectively so powerful in their format that they completely ran the top tables. I would say not a lot of decks are in this GOAT status, but who knows? The next would be really good. Now, these decks are very viable inside of their formats, respectively, but going against the GOATs, they might not be so successful. Competitors are the strategies that were really good inside of their format, but we currently have everything out right now, and they're not doing so hot right now, but we still pay their respects to those certain decks. Starting off with Burning Abyss, we gotta put it into the GOAT status. Look, Burning Abyss has the most tops of any deck of all time per Yu-Gi-Oh! Top decks, and also Fairy Tail Snow is forbidden for a reason. Burning Abyss is just that good. Before then, Burning Abyss relied on, of course, Dante Travel over Burning Abyss, as well as Fire Lake. As long as you can summon 2 Dantes to your side of the field, you Fire Lake them and you destroy multiple cards on your opponent's side of the field, and you activate those Dantes to gain you advantage. Sky Strikers, GOAT status as well. One of the best decks of all time, and it might be a little premature to say that, but look, anytime you have Sky Striker Mobilize Engage, a card that is a reinforcement of the army and an Upstart Goblin, look at all these archetypes. They would love to have something like that, and they have a Spellbook of Judgment inside of a Sky Striker multi-roll, allowing you to set those cards back to your side of the field. Only one of these decks has a Spellbook of Judgment. This deck has both. Kagari is limited to the on the forbidden list, and we'll have to see what happens now, but as of right now, it's still topping. Lightsworn, our first deck into the really good status. Let's just face it, Lightsworn at its hype wasn't good enough. It was actually a deck that everybody laughed at. I hate to say it like that. I love Lightsworn, but during the Teledad era, Lightsworn couldn't thrive. Only until after the best deck of the format in Teleport Dark Arm and Gladiator Beasts would hit, Twilight became one of the better decks of the format, but yeah, Lightsworn just weren't able to compete during those formats, and even when it did get Minerva, it was a very good deck, but it wasn't a better deck of the format. I think it's still a solid deck if we get Fairy Tail Snow off the list, or if we get Brilliant Fusions off the list, the deck would still be like a tier 2-ish type strategy. And even now, being able to just have Minerva and mill cards and play an Earth Engine to make cards like Notoria Beast can still be very powerful, but until then, really good. Not that GOAT status. Monarchs, well, there's multiple Monarchs decks that you can place. If you're talking about the GOAT format Monarchs, or even the Perfect Circle Monarchs, we're gonna put them in a competitor. Those would not be able to compete in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! But we're talking about Aether, the Heavenly, Extra Deck Monarchs, or Domain Monarchs. Oh man, really good decks. I think the best thing to highlight was Aether, the Heavenly Monarch, and Pantheism of the Monarch, Aether being able to give you a free Monarch to your side of the field, and being able to have Pantheism to search cards like the Monarch Storm 4th, and draw cards and search cards, kind of like Sky Striker Widowacre or Sky Striker Mobilize Engage. The deck was actually really good. I wouldn't put it at GOAT status, but that really good is a sweet spot. Apocryphal Towers or Cleforts, I feel were the prototype for all of the decks that we are seeing today with these indestructible monsters. The later forms of Clefort, some of the Apocryphal Towers, which was an indestructible body that forced your opponent to get rid of cards during their end phase, but before, this was actually an OTK anti-meta deck. Clefort Disc allowed you to spell summon multiple Clefort monsters to your side of the field. Skill Drain negated all monster effects, meaning that your Clefort monsters were stronger than your opponents more often than not. 2,800 one or no tribute monsters, and then on top of that, having Vanity's Emptiness play into your favor, even when your pendulum cards did leave the field. Your Vanities didn't, because they didn't go to the graveyard. Black Wings into the Competitor? What? Let's face it, Black Wings are good, just not good enough. They're probably better now than ever before with your full armor Blackwing Master. But before, you relied on Shura to destroy a monster by battle. Granted, you had Kalut to help you with that. A 3,200 attack Shura is pretty big. It would spell summon Gale so you can make Armor Masters, or if you had your Shura or Gale combo, you would eventually swing for 5,600 damage, main phase 2, make Dark Strike Fighter, and then go for game. Dragon Rulers is the GOAT status, probably the GOATs of the GOATs. This deck was considered as one of the best decks of all time by most players, if not every player. The deck was really good when it made Draco sack, and back then there were no Castells, no Honor Arcs. You plowed this baby boy in defense, it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, it gets you 2 tokens, and you can destroy cards on your opponent's side of the field. If the pushing come to shoving, then you made number 11 Big Eye to snatch your opponent's monster and use it for your own. I feel like Dragon Rulers in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! Wouldn't be as powerful. We actually play tested it. It wasn't that great until you get around to Super Rejuvenation. The card literally, it's like in the dice game. You were betting 100 and you just keep on crapping out. You bound on the dice game and then you activate Super Rejuvenation and you get all that back plus more. That's exactly what the card does. This deck is insane because of Super Rejuvenation. Bujin, Competitor. They're definitely, like I think the only card that they're missing is Kaiser Coliseum. Other than that, the deck was reliant on Kaiser Coliseum your opponent and placing a Bujin Yamato on your side of the field, forcing your opponent to battle the Bujin. Now, if they did try to destroy it with card effects, you have Bujin Hare and Bujin Turtle to prevent it by card effects, to prevent it from being destroyed by card effects. Need to not get ahead of myself. And you also have Honest and Bujin Crane if they wanted to battle it. If your opponent broke your Kaiser Coliseum, well, you make Bujin Susanoo attack all of your opponent's monsters and then activate a second Kaiser Coliseum. ABC into the really good status. This deck's powerful. You have your A Assault Core, which recurs Union monsters, B Buster Drake, which searches your Union monsters, C Crush Wyvern, special summons your Union monsters. The best thing about this deck is that it's even better with links. Your synchros into Ancient Fairy Dragons, allowing you to destroy your Dragon's Ravine to add your Union Hanger. There's a free Union monster to your hand. Then you can spell summon it to your side of the field and start linking off for some insane plays. You can play a Sky Striker engine, playing Mobilize Engage to make scary good boards. If you have Nightmare Goblin still, you can make Nightmare Griffin, Buster Dragons on your side of the field and almost extra link your opponent. Fire Fist are competitors. They have everything at 3. Still not the best deck. I think if they had a theme-specific Vanity's Emptiness, they'd be a lot better. Because when I play Fire Fist, by the way, it's my favorite deck. I play Vanity's Emptiness to an advantage. Because anytime you can summon Bear and send Tinky to the graveyard, not only do you get to destroy an opponent's monster, you can turn your own Vanity's Emptiness off. Meaning that you can pop off with your spell summoning and then set up for your next Vanity's Emptiness play. Nonetheless, this deck has always revolved around Fire Formation Tinky, and Fire Fist Bear, being able to destroy your opponent's cards and then the Bear going to get the Tinky. Dragon was really good for recurring resources. The 3.5 access was amazing until it got hit, right before it was supposed to shine along with Dragon Rulers. Masterpiece and True Dracos are GOAT status. Look, the deck is still powerful in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! And it doesn't even have its best boss monster, making itself unaffected by pick 2 monsters, spells, or traps, and being able to destroy a card on your opponent's turn and on your turn by banishing a continuous spell card. The card was just outright dominant. On top of that, as long as your spell and trap cards exist for True Draco, being able to gain additional normal summons, tribute summons, destroy your opponent's spell or trap cards, and recur resources, really good. Another one of those GOAT status decks has to be Teledad. Now, Teledad was the very first tier 0, undisputed tier 0 format. There was no deck beating Teledad. It dominated event after event after event, and monsters like Stardust Dragon and Colossal Fighter may not seem good now, but before, when synchros were just coming out, those were the only good synchros, and Teledad can put them out in mass. Goyo Guardian didn't have the restriction of needing an Earth Tuner, and you could just summon it and snatch your opponent's monster. On top of that, Royal Oppression was still a card, so if push comes to shove, you just Royal Oppression your opponent, they can't spell summon, you win the game. Elemental Heroes would go into the really good status. Now, there was T-Hero, that was good for a couple of weeks until they got hit by the Forbidden List. We're gonna focus on Light Beat Hero City or the new Elemental Heroes Dark Law / deck. I feel like those decks were really good. Unfortunately, well, Elemental Hero Stratos has been at 1 at all those times. You can actually put it in a competitor spot because the deck is, while still being a decent rogue deck, hasn't made any waves. Shadows? Nope, they're not the GOATs. Unfortunately, another one of my favorite decks snubbed by TheCaliEffect himself. There were times in Shadow's dominance with Construct at 3 that it just didn't do anything. Necros were the deck to beat, and Shadows worked on your opponent having an extra deck. Necros didn't play an extra deck. So were Cleaforts, a really hard matchup for the Shadows because they didn't need their extra deck. People were actually complaining about Construct being banned at the end of the format because she really didn't do anything to anybody. It wasn't a good deck by the time it was hit. Cleaforts we're gonna put right next to Cleafort. This is the exact same deck. Hat is going to go into the competitors. For the people that don't know what Hat is, you add your hand monsters, Fire Hand to destroy your opponent's monsters, Ice Hand to destroy your opponent's spell and trap cards, and both of these cards can special summon one another. Your artifact cards, you guys know how artifacts work. Artifact Scythe to prevent your opponent from spell summoning for an extra deck. They actually didn't play it. They played Artifact Moral Attack to be able to destroy your opponent's cards when it was when it was most opportune for you, least opportune for your opponent. And then your Trap Tricks monsters got you cards like Bottomless Trap Hole, so you can start stopping your opponent's play. This is probably one of the most successful anti-meta decks in Yu-Gi-Oh history, but we have everything at 3, and I don't think it would do anything. Constellars? I feel like Constellars could go in the really good just because of how the format is going, but I'm gonna have to put it to the competitor. No, we can put it in the really good because that one card, that one banned card, that Ptolemy card that's banned, that could be really good. That could be the deciding factor for Constellars being a good deck to a great deck, being able to make free infinities. But the only thing that you guys really need to know about this deck is that it revolved around 2 cards, well, 3 cards. You had your Deneb that got your Altair. That spell summon your Deneb that got your Altair. Now, granted, Stellar Alpha Nova was really good at stopping your opponent's card effects, but the engine of Altair and Deneb was really powerful for this deck. You can play a very good Floodgate anti-meta-like deck with your 2 monsters revolving around getting each other back. Ultimately, you make Constellar Trevere, which bounced all cards to the hand, cards like your Call of the Hunted, so you can reuse again. Girgias are a competitor. You relied on Girgi Augur not Girgi Augur, I'm sorry, your Girgi Armor to flip summon itself to gain you advantage. It was a really good deck against Hat, but against like these other decks, it would get completely slaughtered. We're gonna go on to Goki / Dark Warrior. We're gonna put this into the GOAT status. What? Hear me out, ladies and gentlemen. This deck was really ridiculous. You had 2 cards that can extra link your opponent. That later became 2 cards that can extra link your opponent to rip 4 cards out of your opponent's hand. That later became 2 cards that can just FTK your opponent. This deck just got progressively worse as the format just seemed to evolve. Goki or Dark Warrior. Warriors just so happened to be in the GOAT status. I mean, the deck was just really hard to deal with. 6 Samurais in the really good status, and I think what's saving Grace from keeping it into competitor status is the fact that Gateway at 3 would result into all types of FTKs. Let's just put it that way. Gateway at 3 is a walking FTK, and I feel that it could go to GOAT status just for that, but that wasn't Six Samurai's prime. Its prime was being able to summon Great Shogun Sheen to your side of the field, negate your opponent's spell and trap cards, make Natty Beasts, negate your opponent's spell cards. Even before then, it was just a swarm OTK type deck. You guys know that deck I was talking about, using Grandmaster of the Six Samurai, Yachi, Kizan. It was really good, but I don't think it would be GOAT status. Pendulum Magician, this is representation for Pendulum Magician, is GOAT status. This is one of the most terrible decks of all time. Pendulums just so happen to have the most busted mechanics. And unfortunately, if you look at the Forbidden list, or fortunately, if you look at the Forbidden list, you would see why. You have Astrograph Sorcerer as being banned. That should already sum the cake. It's a free monster that gets you another free monster, which is a free Electromite, a level 7, so it plays nice with all of your rank 7 plays, and then on top of that, it fueled FTKs. This deck has an FTK. Let's just leave it where it is. Infernity is a GOAT status deck as well. This deck was really powerful, mainly because you can put triple Infernity Barrier, Void Ogre, Dragons on your side of the field. I'm not going to try to front with you guys. I'm not an Infernity enthusiast, but I do know that that Infernity spell card that's limited to 1 would be able to steal a whole lot of games in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! Insectoids are one of those hard decks to judge. I want to put Insectoids into the really good. Insectoids were very good in their format. Anytime you open Insector Dragonfly plus Horned, it's basically like, oh, your opponent plays Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's punish them for it. And even in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! If you guys, I didn't even get to show you guys the Battle of the Gods, but modern day Insectors with Horned and Dragonfly to 3 can be very scary. You can extra link your opponent. I might actually put that up for my Patreons to see, and then everybody else, depending on how I feel, it's just gonna be a timed exclusive. Everybody will be able to see it eventually, but ultimately, I feel that Dragonfly and Hornet to 3 wouldn't be enough. The deck would still have some consistency issues, so I'm gonna put it in a really good spot. Chaos Dragons has everything that it needs. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have everything that it needs, but you know, Red Eye's Flare Metal Dragon to 3 wouldn't help this deck. The premise of the deck was to summon Light Pulsar Dragon. If your opponent destroyed your Light Pulsar, well, you get your Red Eye Darkness Metal Dragon to your side of the field. The only unfortunate thing about that is that Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2012 was really tricky. Being able to attack over your opponent's 2800 attack monsters, that was hard to do. But being able to do it nowadays, not even a problem. Red Eye Darkness Metal would actually be better for every deck, not Chaos Dragon. And then Future Fusion Pre-Errata, better for every other deck, not Chaos Dragon, unfortunately. Gladiator Beasts into the competitive role, and it pains me to say this, another one of my favorite decks that I have to put down. Gladiator Beasts are reliant on that battle mechanic. Unfortunately, that's where it kind of has its own faults. Gladiator Beasts Geyserus allowed you to destroy multiple cards on your opponent's side of the field, and once it battled, it got you multiple Gladiator Beast monsters. Really good. The investment? Well, all you have to do is summon Gladiator Beast Darius, and then special summon your Sent to the Graveyard Gladiator Beast Bastari. Rewinding it just a little bit, the only 2 cards that are required was an Elemental Hero Prisma and a Test Tiger. So that was pretty good. Cold Wave worked with the deck really well, forcing players to not use spell and trap cards, and more often than not rely on that battle mechanic. Again, the only problem with Gladiator Beasts is the battle mechanic that it is so reliant on. Plant, Chaos Plant, I don't know, I want to put it in the GOAT, because seriously, back in its day, it was very powerful. Tengu, Chaos Plant, Hyper Librarian, Trash, all that great stuff. Yeah, that was scary. And today's Yu-Gi-Oh! Dandelion at anything more than 1 is an FTK. So yeah, I'm gonna put that Chaos Plant to the GOAT status. Essentially, it made Quasar, so yeah, this actually goes right here. It can make cards like Shooting Star Dragon, it can make Quasar under the right stipulations. Quasar wasn't that great of a card, but it ultimately just out-advantaged your opponent using your plant engine to fuel light and dark monsters to the graveyard, making those big synchros, but then it followed up with cards like Black Luster Soldier and Chaos Sorcerer to keep control of the game. Mass Driver FTK is going to have to go to competitor? TheCaliEffect, what are you doing? Look, Mass Driver FTK revolved on using Substitute to getting multiple, frog monsters to your graveyard. I 100% believe that this deck would not beat any of these decks right here. And here's a couple of reasons why. DD Crow, Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion, it has to go first. If any of these decks went first, it would completely slaughter Match Driver. And Match Driver didn't always get the FTK going first. So yeah, this is definitely, even in the second tier list, I don't think that this would beat any of the second tier list decks. The first tier, no, I just don't think that this deck is good anymore. Now, does Match Driver deserve to be banned? Oh yes. Does the Substitute deserve to be banned? Debatable. But I don't think that this deck is good at all anymore, especially in the Yu-Gi-Oh that we play in. Necros into the GOAT status. I actually wanted to put it in really good until I remembered the Jin Lock. That's actually the reason why the deck was so powerful. The Jin Lock, being able to ritual summon your Necros Colossus with the Jin, release of rituals or whatever rituals, preventing your opponent from special summoning. Of course, you had Necros Trish. Now to banish the card on your opponent's hand, field, and graveyard, meaning that if you summoned this more than once, then you were winning the game. Necros of Brianna gave it heavy searching, and even when you did break this deck, break its board, it has its Necros spell cards to recur other ritual cards. Atlanteans, we're gonna put it into the really good category. We already have Dragoons at 3. I think Diva at 3 wouldn't change much. Tidal at 3 and Diva at 3. I don't know. We're looking at Ash Blossom and the Effect Veilers in this particular format, which could hurt it. The deck would still really need its normal summon. I wouldn't put it at GOAT format, GOAT status, but I wouldn't put it at competitor either. The deck was well known for its OTKs, Mermul Abyss Megalo, being able to attack twice. You put that Abyss Scale card on it, that's 64 damage off of one card. You add your Atlantean Infantries and your Atlantean Marksmen to destroy your opponent's spells and trap cards. I still think that Mermels are very good. Just putting it in the GOAT status, nah, I think it'd be like borderline between these two. Rungo Combo, this could actually be considered Dark Warrior. We already see these two decks as one and the like. Now that I think about it, this is Dark Warrior. So yeah, we'll just put that back here. I'll put all the one-ofs back here because it looks like we're getting, or the doubles back here because it looks like we're getting, you know, clogged in our space. So as you guys can see, it looks like GOAT status really good and competitive throughout Yu-Gi-Oh. We've had a fair balance of it. Orcust, I just put as really good. I wouldn't put this deck as GOAT status. It's too new to say. But the boards that Orcust make don't seem as powerful as the boards that the GOAT status decks would make. Nonetheless, Orcust is still really good. Dingirsu in your graveyard almost ensures that you'll have a disruption. Your Phantom Knight engine, which would be stupid good inside of Teleport Dark Arm, you can ironically say that Teleport Dark Arm would just absorb all of this deck and then be like, hey, I'm Teledad Orcust now. Pepe. Nah, I'm just playing with you guys. Pepe is definitely a GOAT status deck for almost the exact same reasons why Metal Foe, or I'm sorry, why I call it Metal Foe, why Pendulum Magician would be really good. Perform a POW monkey board would search any of your Pendulum cards, and then you'd just be able to abuse that. Back in its day, making Cyber Dragon Infinity off your Potalamus M7, and then a host of other cards made the deck really strong. The next strategy we are going to talk about is Quick Draw Dandy Warrior. I'm going to put that into the competitive series, not to make any mistakes. Quick Draw Dandy Warrior did play Dandelion, meaning that it probably would be successful in FTKing your opponent, but its mainstay is summoning Drill Warrior. And I can't tell you how useless Drill Warrior would be. Now, if you guys wanted to go a plant route, you're probably better off playing Chaos Plant. But Quick Draw Dandy Warrior summoned Drill Warrior and Synchro monsters alike to be able to recur resources to your hand and outplay your opponent with your Synchro monsters. It's going to be in a competitor form because this just would not work in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! Going into Synchro Cat, one of my favorite decks of all time, unfortunately makes the competitor bracket. Big reason due to it actually having everything at 3 and just not being good. Rescue Cat did get errata, but even pre-errata form Rescue Cat wouldn't save this deck. Summoner Monk summoned your rescue cat to your side of the field, and then that would in turn get you X-Saber Airbellum. The X-Saber Airbellum and your Summoner Monk would be used as a synchro summon into your Arcanite Magician, which could destroy multiple cards on your opponent's side of the field. After that, you can make cards like Dark Strike Fighter to inflict damage, tribute itself, and inflict damage to your opponent even more. But that's just not going to cut it in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! Dino Rabbit being in the competitor series definitely hurts my heart as well, but let's face it, it's another one of those rescue decks that just don't have place in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Its main play was to normal summon Rescue Rabbit, use its effect to summon either Saber Swords to your side of the field or Kabazools, which will eventually make Evil Sword Logia or Dolka. That's not going to work in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! Just summoning that with back row, you're going to get slaughtered. Even your tour guide play is subpar, using Gold Sarcophagus to banish the rabbit and then tour guiding into 11. Yeah, that's not going to work in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! At all either. Solomon Great, I would have to put into the really good status, almost to the GOAT. I don't think that this deck has enough under its belt to be considered a GOAT status deck, but it's very much on its way. I do think that it's definitely crippled by Konami making more balanced decks. I don't think we'll have too many more GOAT status decks in the future, just some really good decks for their time. Nonetheless, making Solomon Great Sunlight Wolf is really free inside of this deck. As long as you have Solomon Great Gazelle and Spinny, you'll be able to pop off, making your Mirage Stalios, your Gazelles, and then eventually just out-advantaging your opponent. Dinos have to go in that borderline GOAT status really good, and this is why. Lethosagam is terribly dangerous. You can be able to look through your opponent's extra deck and destroy or get rid of cards that you don't want to play against. But being able to destroy some of your baby monsters would be even better. Danglong would make the deck uberly powerful. You can almost say that this is pretty close to GOAT status, but I'm gonna pump your brakes and put it at really good. Dinos of today aren't really doing too hot, and while they could be doing a lot better, maybe some players need to jump on that Dino bandwagon. I think that there's a lot of other counters to this strategy, and it is very powerful, but I don't think it's just GOAT just yet. Spellbook has to go into GOAT status, even though you could say it's one of the least qualified decks in this category. Reason why is because Dragon Ruler did dominate that format, but Spellbooks took second at the Worlds event, possibly meaning that players just didn't take advantage of Spellbooks the correct way. Regardless, activating Spellbook of Judgment and then following up with spell cards could land you a Kaiku to Ghost Destroyer, which would stop not only Dragon Rulers, but stop some of the meta decks of today. If you wanted to summon Jowgen of Spiritualists, just remember, do the Professor Oak thing. Take this with you. Make sure you activate your Starhole and pump your Jowgen up to a decent respectable 2500 attack. Shouldn't be too hard for this deck to do. And now you have a walking Vanity's Fiend that can even rid your opponent of their special summon monsters. Spellbooks, I think, are really good. Right now, they're not good at all, but Spellbook of Judgment at 0 kind of prevents that from happening. My left stroke just went Spyro as a really good deck. Who am I kidding? This deck's GOAT status. It has a 2-card extra link. All you need is Spyro Drones or Spyro Quick Fix. You can pretty much get it popping. I mean, think about it. The deck got hit numerous times, and then other cards had to be brought into the format to help make the deck just not as good. It got power crept out after being hit. Spyro Resort got you free Spyro cards from your deck to your hand, and as a maintenance cost, return monsters from your graveyard back into your deck. That's a pretty good maintenance cost. Spyro Sleeper was a really big thorn in a lot of players' side, being able to destroy your opponent's cards, and it can often be made immune. Your Spyro Quick Fix was the quick fix to so many extra links, machine duplication plays and whatnot, and so is your Spyro Drone. This card definitely deserves a GOAT status. Now, this Dark Creator right here is just for me to remind you guys that Teleport Dark Arm actually had a board or a build before Teleport Dark Arm, or before Synchros for that matter. Summoning Dark Creator and then using its effect to spell summon those dark monsters back to your side of the field. Dark Lord Zerato was really good at being able to wipe your opponent's board, and then you can follow up with cards like Dimension Fusion to go for game. Agents are going to go into the competitor because they were really good in their format, but I don't know, summoning Agent Creation of Venus to summon Mystic Shine Balls to your side of the field to make a Gachi Kentetsu, not gonna cut it. Even just summoning, even its best plays, being able to make Trish off of the Venus and ally, Gen X ally Birdman, that's not that good either. Nonetheless, the deck was really good. Those plays were insane, having a 2000 attack Venus on your side of the field with the Gachi Gentetsu, which will then allow you to follow with a Master Hyperion, him being up to 3100 attack, and allowing you to destroy cards on your opponent's side of the field by banishing fairy monsters. It was pretty good back in its day. Totally Awesome is totally awesome. I remember when players were complaining about the Tree Toad name change to Totally Awesome. I think that it was totally awesome. But this deck was actually good back in its day. Being able to make totally awesome to your side of the field, which would not only negate an opponent's card effect, but allow you to have that card to your side of the field, whether it was a spell, trap, or monster. The Paleozoic cards worked really well because not only were they monsters that can be used to make your totally awesome, they were trap cards to disrupt your opponent. I think that the deck is pretty good right now. It can actually be able to make some waves inside of your local or possible regional level event. And there isn't really much that has changed to Totally Awesome except for the format. You can even argue that it can be in the competitor. Actually, I think it'd be better off in the competitor because it does still have everything at 3. Master Rule 4 just kind of like, you know, pushed it a little bit lower. Now, windups, this can easily go to GOAT status because new build windups, oh man, I think that new build windups can extra link your opponent. They can do some really awesome things. If Windup Hunter is still available, they can still hand loop. But I'm going to go ahead and put them to really good just for the sole instance of Dragonfly being the exact same thing. I feel like these are really good in combination with one another, or not together, but these are really good as decks on their own, possibly GOAT status, but which would kill them is their consistency. And on top of that, these decks aren't immune to hand traps. So that will kind of stop them right in their tracks. Nonetheless, this deck was still really good. Windup Carrier and Windup Hunters in Matey was a terribly awesome combination because you can make your opponent start off with 2 cards in their hand. Keep in mind, this was like 2012. So yeah, those little insane 2-card combos, 5 negates, did not exist back in the day. Monarchs is going to be a symbolization of monarchs, you know, the other monarchs as opposed to you know, the Aether Monarch. So we're just gonna go ahead and put them there. You can put them competitor if you wanted to. The Quasar is basically just Synchro Plant. Quasar Turbo was never a great deck. The Rungo combo can be considered as Dark Warrior. We've already talked about the Cleaforts, and we've already talked about this. Next, where does Zoo go into the top tier list? Easily GOAT status. Zodiac Dryden was a 1-card monster that provided disruption on your opponent's turn. Zodiac Broad Bull searched any Beast Warrior from your deck to your hand. All Beast Warrior decks were proud. Zodiac Barrage destroyed any of your cards on the field, so it worked in combination with so many other archetypes to get you a free Zodiac, which was a free Dryden. This was the second best deck in the world. This is the second best deck in the Yu-Gi-Oh card game when it comes to in terms of tops. And to make matters even worse, Zodiacs didn't have the exact same time frame as Burning Abyss. So you can count that as a plus that Zodiac cemented or mounted so many tops with way less time than Burning Abyss. This deck can be splashed in just about anything. Zodiac Metalfoes, Zodiac True Draco, Zodiac. Yeah, that's actually a splashable engine. You can splash your Zodiacs and Zodiacs to make Zodiac, but still, this is considered one of the best decks of all time, alongside of Pepe, Necros, and Dragon Rulers. I think that would be the Quadfecta. I mean, you could just make it a pin, whatever 5 is. You can make it a Quinfecta with your Pendulum Magician. But that's pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. I would love to actually make a timeline of all of the competitive decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! I want you guys to post down below in the comment section if you guys would like to see that, as well as like this video, and then post down below in the comment section what you guys want to see as a tier list as well. Thank you guys so much for watching another segment of The Cali Effect. Please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy. I hope you guys are having a great day like I am.